Hello. So, today I just happened to receive my part from Devil's in the Details from David, and it's actually the first time I'm opening it as well. Figured I'd save it for the camera. So we got a little thank you note and some download resources. Tells you where to download the manual and what printers this is capable of. This is the 3-in-1 Extruder, and I already had pulled up the manual here. He has it digitally in Google Docs. You can get a link from his website. And of course we have the 3-in-1 Extruder. Comes with the Allen key needed. I believe this is to adjust the back spring tension here. It is. Perfect. And it comes with some other parts as well in your part bag. Let's break these down. Ooh, I want to point this out in case you get the parts bag your same way I got mine. Just in case. Apparently, I don't know if you can see this, the spring is on this extruder bolt. The spring does not stay there. This is actually a stronger spring that you can replace. It's for different strengths of pressure against your filament. You can actually replace it in here. So these are the longer bolts that will go through your fan, through the cooling fans, and then into the stepper motor itself. And I believe this is going to, in my case it's a Replicator 2, not a 2X, so on the 2. This is going to go behind it. I'll show you all as I go through the video. And then these are the last two remaining bolts here. These will go into the top of the 3-in-1 Extruder and actually attaching backwards. There you go. These will go here for the shorter bolts up top and attaching again to your stepper motor. So let's go ahead and get started here. I've already unloaded the filament from my Makerbot. Let's set these aside. One thing you may or may not want to do, it is really optional. There we go. On his Thingiverse, he gives you a couple spare optional active cooling fan holders that you can print out. One that actually comes across the top and has a place for your filament tube to actually fasten to, and the other one that doesn't, which leaves it nice, clean looking, nice open, and you get to still put your active cooling fan, bolt it to the side of it as well. It goes over the cooling block here, and I like this one because it has a nice groove for the wire tie. If you've ever had wire tie slip off on the wiring harness, this has a nice groove so your wire tie will actually stay in one place when you zip that wiring harness on there. Plus, I understand that the tolerance on the hole on top of the 3-in-1 Extruder here, when you actually put your filament tube in there, actually works very good. It holds it strong. Nothing like the 2X where it won't fall out or come popping out when you're printing. So I don't think I'll have a need for this one, and I like the look of the other one. Actually, it's a lot cleaner. But if you bought your 3-in-1 Extruder and you're thinking about replacing it with something like this, you know, for your active cooling fan holder and getting rid of that big plastic block that goes across the top of your current extruder, before you do the work, you may want to actually print one out. You know, and then go back to it after you're done printing the parts out. So that way, while you're doing the work, you're replacing the extruder and your active cooling fan mount at the same time, and you're not doing twice the amount of work or having to strip it down 2 different times. So we'll set those aside as well. I'll slide my parts over here. And we'll take a break here and we'll bring the printer on the table. Alright, so we're back, and I'm going to try to get the best angle I can out of this. Now I've already unloaded my filament, and of course when doing this you want to wait until the actual cooling fan on your extruder turns off after you stop the unload process, ensuring that you have a cool heating block and nozzle You're not going to burn yourself. Make sure the unit's cool before you go doing the work. Take that extra time. Something else I'm going to do real fast is actually remove my glass heat bed plate, because you may drop things, and a big aluminum 3-in-1 extruder could possibly break my plate. I don't want to take that chance, so I'm going to take that, move that aside as well. Make sure the unit's unplugged, and then we can begin doing our work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to snip the wire tie from my current wiring harness. Make sure you don't snip any of your wires as well. Make sure you're clear of your wires before you do that. And then I'm going to unplug my stepper motor so I don't forget. And we'll just kind of swing those wires to the side. Now we'll grab the Allen key that was provided, or maybe one that you already have, and loosen up the two bolts up front. Now while we pull these two bolts in the fan, your heatsink is going to come out with it on one like this. And I'm going to set these parts aside, set the heatsink aside. You got two spacers in here, plastic spacers. Set those aside as well. We can remove the bolts and the fan protector and let the fan hang down there for the time being, because these bolts probably won't be needed. They provided different bolts. I'm assuming it's a different length. So if I look at this compared to the stock bolts, yep, it looks to be about a ½ inch longer. So at this time you have a nice loose stepper motor. You should easily be able to just slide the stepper motor out away from your cooling block. And there you have it. This is your current extruder and stepper motor. So now we're going to remove the old extruder from your stepper motor. So we're going to remove this bolt here. And things that would have broke the glass heat bed plate would be my screwdriver. And by doing this, this will loosen up the whole entire top piece here. And also, you can remove your spring at this point. Now set these aside. This may very well come in handy. It's got a nice bearing in there. You might be able to use it for something else. Now you have one more bolt here that we're going to move on the right side. This is going to be a very small bolt, so be careful when you move it. You can lose it and drop it easily. And set that aside with your stock extruder. Now we have our bare stepper motor, and we want to remove the tooth driving gear. While you're here, it's a good time, if you haven't done so in the past. You may have some plastic filament chips in the grooves of these teeth here. Take a toothbrush, clean it up, make sure it's nice and clean. Might as well start fresh. So we're going to remove this tooth by simply grabbing the proper size Allen key and loosening that bolt there. And it should slide right off. There we have it. Now set this aside. We're going to need this, so put this with your new extruder parts. We're going to take the 3-in-1 extruder. We're going to make sure the stepper motor plug is facing up, and this is going to go with the plastic piece facing towards the inside of the motor. And it's like a perfect fit. It's meant and designed to fit around that circle that pops off this aluminum front of your stepper motor. You can see it's got a perfect cutout for it. So it should just fit perfectly. It should be perfectly flush. And then at this point we're going to take our two short bolts, two smaller ones I pointed out earlier in the video, and they go in the top left and the top right corner. And we're going to tighten these down. Like so. Now we want to put our drive tooth back on there. I know I'm using the wrong name for that, but for lack of a better argument, we'll call it a drive tooth. Now this isn't going to go on that easy because we need to take the tension off of this bearing here. So to do that, we're going to take a smaller Allen key. One of the Allen keys that actually came with your Makerbot works just well. I think this is a 2.5 or a 2 millimeter Allen key. There's a hole up here in the top right, and we're going to take the Allen key and place it in the hole. While giving it a little push, we'll loosen up that spring and allow this to slide up or down on there. So you're looking for that bearing to go right in the middle of those teeth. Once you're at that spot, you can release it. And now the bearing will actually hold it in place the way it's sitting right now. So once that bearing is sitting right in the center of those teeth, we can now tighten this down again. Like so. So now that we have the 3-in-1 extruder screwed onto the stepper motor, we're going to set this aside carefully. And we're going to work on replacing the mount for the active cooling fan. So it'll be a cleaner look, cleaner install, which is the part that I mentioned in the beginning of the video that you may or may not have stopped the video, decide to print one out yourself. And if you haven't, well, you can kind of fast forward through this part of the video. It'll still work with the stock mount, I believe. I checked the alignment on it earlier, and it looks like the filament will still feed straight down into the 3-in-1 extruder, so that's not an issue. I've chosen to replace it because it's got a much cleaner look to it, and I like it. So we have 2 Phillips head screws, one here and one here. We're going to remove these 2 Phillips screws. And I've already removed the bottom one to save some time. And this just simply comes off like this. Now if you're lucky, the cooling duct remains on the cooling fan. If you're not, and it just happened to fall off, don't worry about it. It's a square underneath. There's a square here. They just simply line back up, and you'll see the notches on the cooling duct line up to where the screws go through. It's not a huge deal. And we got a bunch of wires in here. We're going to have to move some of these wires out of place. And the one thing you're going to notice is this fan is not going to fit through here. So we need to disconnect our cooling fan. While carefully unwrapping the wire harness protector, let's find the plug for that fan. There it is. And we're going to carefully disconnect that fan. Now I don't like putting tension on these plugs or on the wires, so I use a number 3 flathead, and I noticed it fits in there very well. Just give it a little turn and the fan plug pops right out. So you're not yanking on any wires as you do this. I don't want to have to go back later and have to solder something because I yanked too hard. So now that your fan is removed, you can set that aside as well. We're going to remove these 2 bolts with one of the provided Allen keys that came with your Makerbot. And this will remove your whole entire mount for the active cooling fan. So we've removed the 2 nuts, and we can actually pull the active cooling fan base off. We're going to want to take these 2 screws here, set those aside carefully. We're going to reuse these for the new mount. And here we have our new mount, and it's going to go on the same direction as such. You want that loop for your wire tie harness right here. You want that open spot facing you. I'm going to put it, it'll fit right over top of the cooling block as if it's actually meant to be there. Well, because it is. And we're going to take the two bolts that we just got done unscrewing out of the stock mount, and we're going to put them in this new mount. Once we have that solid in place, we want to take our fan wire, run it through from the right side to the left, and let's go ahead and reconnect our fan and tuck that wire back inside that wiring harness protector there. Now, one thing to point out again with this, and it's the same as on your stock one, there's a little notch, a little cutout right here. In fact, I'll show you on the stock one. You're looking for the little notch, little cutout like right there. It's very important that you feed your wires through this little notch, because when you screw your fan back on, you don't want to pinch these wires. So whatever wires were previously fed through there, in my case, I had a couple wires fed through here. I had a fan wire fed through, and I also had the plug for my heating element as well, was fed through there. So we'll put those wires back through. As you can see, we got the wires going through that little notch. And at this point, we can actually take our fan, and the fan wire for the active cooling fan, the fan that goes on the left, also needs to go through that little notch as well. And we're going to line this up. With the holes and with our same existing screws that we removed the fan, we're going to use those same screws to mount the new fan. So I screwed my active cooling fan mount in place, and I've screwed my active cooling fan with the cooling duct actually in place as well, and everything is tight and secure. I have the wires running through that little notch, so the wires are still loose. You can see it move on the other side. You know you're not pinching any wires. There's a second notch over here on the left hand side. This is where your fan wire is going to go, so you don't pinch that as we install the rest of the equipment later down the road here. Just wanted to note that up front. We have our stepper motor with a 3-in-1 extruder. We're just going to lay that in the back. We're not going to do any screwing or bolting at this point yet, because we want to grab the two longer bolts that came with the 3-in-1 extruder. And we're going to start by feeding the fan guard first, and then the fan is going to follow Now, I did pay attention to when I took mine off, and I can tell you my fan wires were run for the correct length to where these fan wires go on the bottom left hand corner. Your fan wires were most likely ran in that same direction. Now we're going to put our plastic spacers on. And your heatsink. In the heatsink, the big empty section will go facing the left side of your fan. Now we have all that together, and I'm just going to feed the bolts into the cooling block a little bit, so it kind of holds it in place for me here. Now we're going to, if you're running a Replicator 2, we're going to take this aluminum block, the spacer, This is actually an important piece here for a replicator too. This spacer is going to go behind the cooling block, but in front of the stepper motor. Now the reason I'm going to remove the stepper motor to do this, the reason I ran my bolts slightly, I'm going to push the bolt through so I can actually see the bolts start to protrude on the other side of the cooling block, just a little bit. So we got this little bit of a bolt coming out with both of the screws. This is the easiest way I found to put this on, is to stick those bolts out a little bit and then push those bolts flush with this aluminum spacer. And that will hold the aluminum spacer in place while you take your stepper motor with your new 3-in-1 extruder and you put that in place as well. If you got that motor lined up correctly, we should be able to tighten down the extruder bolts. And won't have to worry about that block running away from you. We got the right one halfway tightened down. We're going to do the left one about the same amount. Make sure you got a clean thread. If it seems like you have to force it, don't. You don't want to do any type of forcing on that thread. Also, pay attention when you're doing this to make sure you do have these wires for your fan running through that little notch I pointed out earlier, because this is the point where it will pinch the wires. So we got the wires in the grooves. We're going to tighten down hand tight the extruder bolts the rest of the way. I'm going to take my wire tie. Well, first I'll plug in my stepper motor. Don't forget to do that. Take my wire tie and run it through this nice little grooved area here, which should definitely help keep my wire tie holding this wire harness in place going forward. I do like that design, David, by the way. Thank you for that. And tighten that down just enough to hold those wires and that wire harness in place. And we're good. Snip off the remaining wire tie. And that's it. You successfully installed the new active cooling mount with a cleaner look, not hiding the visibility of your nicely polished 3-in-1 extruder, and you're ready to go. So now it's about putting the filament in and adjusting the tension with this hex nut over here, which we'll go through in a second. And wow, they weren't kidding. Those reviews I read said that it has enough tension to stay in there without a problem. I'd have to say that's not gonna go anywhere. Nope. I like the look of that. Okay. So let me go ahead and load some filament in here so we can go through the adjusting the tension properly. So as I have my extruder heating up, the one thing you're going to need is that 2 or 2.5 millimeter hex wrench that comes with your Makerbot. We're going to need this to get the filament started. So let me go ahead and pull off my tube again. This hex key is going to go in this hole right here. And this will be to give it a little bit of a push and to back the bearing away as the filament starts to feed in. That works. So as soon as I get my all clears beeps and the extruder starts turning, you know you got your wiring and everything hooked up. We're going to push this Allen key in and release the Allen key when you feel the filament starting to grab and move, which it is, and now I'm extruding filament. We can remove this Allen key and we're done with it. Now at this point he says to make sure the tension's proper on this spring tension here. To do this, you want to grab the filament with your fingers and give it a pinch. And if you hear the stepper motor start to click, you shouldn't be able to stop this filament from coming out. Which I can't seem to stop the filament from coming out, even the way it sits stock, the way it was actually sent to me. That's really good. I can't stop that at all. Well, for the sake of argument, let's see if I can make it click. Let me back the tension off a little bit. Okay, there I was able to stop the filament from extruding by pinching it. Yep. So if you are able to stop the filament from extruding by pinching it, you want to take the Allen key that he provided with you in this kit and give it about a half a turn at a time. Let's try that. Still able to stop it. Give it another half a turn. And I am not able to stop it. It's still extruding despite me pinching on that filament very hard. So at that point, that's actually just a little bit beyond flush. And I'd have to say we're good. Put your filament tube back in, and you've adjusted the tension on your 3-in-1 extruder properly. You can stop the loading process and remove all the filament you just wasted by adjusting. But I'd rather have it adjusted correctly now than to have a print fail later. The point of this upgrade is to have better extrusion and less failures during my printing, so this justifies it. You might as well do the work and tension it now. So congratulations, you've installed your 3-in-1 extruder that you purchased from Devils in the Details on your Replicator 2 or your Replicator 2X, whichever one it is you did the install on. You have a much cleaner look here and a much better wire harness mount with the wire tie with Dave's design if you printed the design out and installed this, and everything's good to go. Thanks for watching. I hope this actually helped you with your installation of your 3-in-1 extruder and made things a little clearer and a little easier with the visual cues and what have you. And if you like, please go ahead and subscribe. Leave comments down below. If you didn't like it, you have something negative to say, you can leave comments too as well. I just ignore them and won't pay attention to you. It doesn't matter. So have a good day. Thanks.